Alright, welcome back, folks. Oops, sorry, Rain did not get that. There we go. It's game number 2. It's still the deciding matches to begin the groups. We, of course, have several best of 3s remaining. If you guys missed the first series today, Heart waits in the winner's half, and Gumio waits in the loser's half of the group here. So we'll see who gets to fight against whom after this series concludes. But spawning in the bottom left corner of the map, playing for My Insanity, taking a pretty harsh loss. Let's see if he can make it up. It's My Insanity's Rain.
Number right as the red Zerg, it's Axiom's Impact.
Alright, so Impact's go for a drone scout. This doesn't strike me so much as odd. What I would really like to see if he would embrace his inner true and just go for just straight up a hatchery. Because, I mean, the only thing a proxy hatchery really doesn't function too well against is if someone goes for a Forge Expand. And Rain already put his first pylon up here on the high ground. So when Impact gets here with the probe, that might be just the signal he wants.
Yeah. The problem is that there are two choices to make, and the proxy hatchery is weirder and kind of more committed because it is weirder. Whereas you scout this, you can just also go for a 3 hatchery for pool and get away with it. And that's like an easy, like, I'm gonna get this no matter what kind of thing. You know, there's only, I mean, like one build, like the fast 4 gate that you kind of have to pre-plan anyways, that can really stop that. Otherwise, you just get away with it. So I think that's what Impact's gonna do. Being pretty greedy right now, actually going to 16 drones. So maybe he's gonna throw it in a pool now.
Yeah, it's too late to pull off that hatchery block anyways. Nexus does go down out of Rain, and it looks like we may get to see a normal game. Whoa.
Oh no. Well, it's gonna be 17 hatchery, like 3rd hatchery before pool. You may even get like gas. Like, you can get really greedy with this, and by the time you take, well, you can take the natural gases, of course, but that is interesting.
What I enjoy about this actually is because Protoss builds tend to be too gas dependent, especially when you take your gases later like this. This actually limits the tech path of Rain's opening here quite severely.
Yeah, I'd be very surprised if it like made Rain go for that very fast 48, like I said. But I mean, I think that like there's already past that time. But either way, he's gonna try and get his zealots, or maybe a cancel it. But always some light pressure as his probe scouts what has actually gone on. You know, 3 hatchery for pool, and well, he did get gas before pool. I wasn't, was wrong on that one.
I'm a little bit worried because if we're going to be honest, Rain might not be the cheesiest, the dirtiest, or the all-iniest of Protoss players out there. I can certainly think of at least a handful that are more so than him. But this is Overgrowth, and I can't count the many times that whether it's a 4-gate, a 7-gate, or a full-on 8-gate, where this third base has a couple of force fields screw it over and the game tends to end around it. Even if it's not like the opener, even if it's just an attack later on in the game. So for Impact's sake, I'm a little bit worried, kind of hoping that he'll be the one to put on the aggression to prevent that from happening. But for the sake of Rain, there is that option. You've kind of got an easy out when it comes to killing a third base. You finally cleaned up that extraction. Boy, did it die messy. Clean up your stuff, Impact. Jeez.
Wow.
Holly Molly would be very disappointed.
Excuse you. This is kind of interesting. I mean, usually the 2 gases are always in the main, and it's very easy to scout that. And then it's more a question of like how many gases he's getting at the natural. 3, 4, 0? Now it's like, well, he's definitely on 2, but I mean, Impact getting into the main, the scout, like, gateways is already hard enough. So scouting that gas specifically is going to be even harder.
Unless you're really cool and go for Overlord speed.
Yeah. I think Impact has done at least a couple of times.
Yeah. It doesn't really matter at this point, I think. It's getting to that point where you're just going to sacrifice the Overlords in anyways, but I love seeing early Overlord speed. I know it's not cost effective, and it is a little bit of a hard to budget, I guess, upgrade early on. But Impact's gone pretty gasless for a long time now, and this is one of those things where I just get so worried. Had this been like a full-fledged all-in, he's gonna have nothing to really defend himself with.
Yeah, I think it was like he was calling that it wasn't gonna be the case. I mean, he had that Overlord in the front, and usually if you do add those gateways, they're around the fronts, even though he did get the Samurai score there too. But it looks like Rain is going to expand, which, I mean, it is Rain, and Rain is kind of known as this very passive, like, Protoss player. All Protoss, just like all Terrans, do have a 2 racks and a 7 gateway all in up their sleeve, but, if Rain has a choice, it's usually to go for, like, more macro-oriented style. Yeah, there's the expansion.
Yeah, and that's definitely got to be a little bit concerning for Impact's sake, because you know that this is a player who is going to excel in the late game. You let him get double robo production or triple stargates. I mean, the game just spirals from there. Zerg typically in the late game don't exactly have a big edge coming in. It's really hard to use those Vipers. Corruptors sometimes don't even get the job done. So I'm really wondering what Impact's going to do. We've seen a lot of Ling Hydra out of him, but we don't have a Hydralist end down. It's a Roach Horn.
Yeah, I wonder if this is just going to be for just in case, basically, right? We'll see. I mean, he sees that this third is taken, so it would have to be like a fake third, which we don't see at all anymore. Like I haven't seen like a third cancel in a long time. But these amount of Lings is quite scary. He finds a decent position and good force field, so won't be able to cancel the Nexus.
Well, waiting for those force fields to wear off to go back in for that dive. Cannon finish though, it's gonna be a little bit harder to pull off.
Yeah. And he is, I mean, he's being really 11 to 12 more drones. It's gonna take him up to, okay, well maybe he'll want to drone just a little bit more. But he's also gonna lair, he's got a macro hatchery, which is a little interesting. I mean, macro hatcheries are never bad, obviously, but I mean, usually they're more necessary when you go for like larva intensive units like Lings, like a Ling style, but he is investing into the +1 missile weapons, and it is gonna be roaches. I gotta imagine it's gonna be a Hydralist then after this. This
This cool push, is that what you're gonna say?
Yeah, totally.
Nailed it. In fact, creep spread perhaps a little bit lacking. I am a little bit surprised on this fact, but he's not exactly been a creep heavy player for the most part anyways, even when he does go for like Ling Hydra. I think the only time we've ever seen him lay on the creep heavy is if he really plans to go towards Swarm Host or not. But I like the burrow tech, really good for dealing with force fields. Of course, good for sneak and attack later on if he decides to go for the full-on tunneling claws to follow up the Khalil Reconstitution.
So he still might follow with a Hydralist end, but first he's gonna do this attack, right? A lot of Lings, some roaches. By the time you really get in the heat of the battle, burrow might be done. That'd be a good time to obviously burrow. But this is an attack that's like, you know, it's gonna take advantage of someone who, you know, did have an expansion as it covered so many points, especially on overgrowth, where if you don't cover the middle of the natural and the third, you're not covering, like, you know, you're not covering one base basically, and they can break down the natural, you know, stop your +2 with the forges up there, for instance, as well. And that's where it gets a little tricky to deal with this many units. And behind it, of course, you can be a little greedy. You take the gold base, you drone up as, you know, no perfect amount, and then apparently you go for a Spire in Impact's case.
I really liked taking those rocks down. It's definitely going to benefit Impact a little bit more than it does Rain, but yeah, this attack might not kill all the sentries. It's going to kill a couple of them. Rain's got them on the front lines. The roaches could push into those. But the thing is, while this goes on, no matter how much damage Impact does or doesn't do, it covers him taking a gold base behind this. It covers him continuing to expand.
Yeah, that was not a great trade, though. I mean, there always is something to be said about losing all your units, right? Like, you never want to lose all your units as any race. And then the counterattack is just, you know, it's immediate and very powerful, and you haven't quite gotten, you know, in this case, the mutas that you would want to. So, I mean, these aren't a lot of roaches anymore, and Blink did finish, so this is actually kind of a scary attack now.
Absolutely on the retreat right now. Impact's going to try and stay safe around the gold base. So many ways to abuse this though. Stalkers on the low ground, come around the cliff. Ling's going to be actually pre-positioned for this, and what I really like is he's going to be able to come from behind. A lot of the time, it's the Blink Stalkers with the weak health that blink backwards, thinking they're safe in the back. If the Lings swamp on top of that, those 5 health Stalkers go down so quickly.
Yeah. Right now, it's just buying a lot of time. I really did want to go into mutas, but, you know, mutas cannot trickle in. By the time the mutas trickle into a good enough number, they've killed your 4th base and your 3rd and most of your ground units. And, well, that's not the case that, you know, Impact wanted to have. And so he has to pretty much max out on roaches. But against Blink Stalkers with +2, roaches actually aren't that great.
Well, the pylons are down, the reinforcements are on the front lines. Is there an observer with the army? I don't believe so. One observer on the map is actually up here northward. So it's not quite with the army, but it's near enough that if Impact does start to burrow, it's not going to really benefit him. This attack really not going too poorly for Rain as he continues to push forward. He's just doing what Protoss do. Segment, kill, kill, kill.
Yeah. I don't know if he's going to end the game. He's kind of getting into an awkward position where he's greening all the reinforcements, but the drones are being pulled from the gold.
But they kill the sentries with it, so that becomes a little bit more worthwhile. Impact does reinforce some of those 20+ roaches. Perhaps not the greatest thing against Blink Stalkers, but it's a situation where he may have to give up the gold base, sure, but this game is not over just yet.
Oh, Blink's on top of the roaches. Very bold. 11 roaches the way. Oh,
yeah, the roaches are coming like they weren't coming in as one consolidated force. They're streaming like 3 or 4 at a time. So getting sniped off, suddenly go from 20 roaches down to like almost nothing. Either way, Rain will take that second game. He'll tie up the series now 1-1. And we're going to hop into the final map in this series, which I believe, if correct me if I'm wrong, Foxtrot Labs. So again, if you guys are just tuning into the cast today, hi, hello. We're going to be hopping into the